welcome to everyone who's here. And I'd also like to welcome those who are online, who are watching on our live streamed on YouTube. So I think first thing I'll do is start off with a karakia. So I'll lead it. It's a wee bit difficult to do online with everybody speaking at the same time, so you can say it to yourself if you like. So the one I'm going to use is the one that we have been using regularly at Community Board over the last few months. So I'd invite you to stand if you'd like to. I don't know quite how that's going to work, but here we go. Whakatakatiho ki te uru, whakatakatiho ki te tonga, kia makina kina ki uta, kia matarata ki tai, he ake ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhanga, tihe Māori ora. Right, thanks everybody. So did I declare the meeting open? I declare the meeting open. And the first item we have on the agenda is apologies. Are there any apologies? No, I don't think there are. So we'll move on to item 2 on the agenda, which is declarations of interest. Is there anything anyone would wish to declare? Members? No? Raise your hand to any questions if and that will we'll be able to get to a quick answer. So we'll move on to item 3, which is confirmation of the previous minutes. So I'm happy to move that. This is from the 14th of February 2022. Phil is going to second it. So I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Raise your hand. Okay, good. Opposed? No. Okay, so that's carried. Thank you. So we'll move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is our public forum. So we have a couple of public forums today. So part 1 is the Levita Youth Trust. So we've got Jeremiah Nichols here. Yep, I see that hand, Jeremiah. Thank you. Who's going to speak on behalf of Levita Youth Trust and provide the board with an introduction on the trust and their work in the Coastal-Burwood area. So, yeah, just on behalf of the board and all the viewers, I'd like to welcome you, Jeremiah. So, let's go.
Kia ora koutou. Let me just introduce myself. Tina koutou, tina tātou katoa, ko Paurangia hau te maunga, ko Kawatiri te awa, no Otutahi ahau, no Otutahi toku kāinga I naenei, ko Life Church toku wharakarakia, ko Levita Youth Trust tō mahi, ko Jeremiah toku ingoa, no reira ka nui te mihi ki a koutou katoa, tina koutou, tina tātou katoa. Thank you for this opportunity to come and meet you all. Life Church and Levita Youth Trust are what I do for my day job. I work as the Youth Trust Manager, overseeing some of the work that we do right across Canterbury, actually, from in Upper Riccarton predominantly. We've now got some work happening in Selwyn. And then most recently, we've just moved to the Coastal Board. So great to have the opportunity to come and introduce ourselves, say we're new to the area. We had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to my wife and I to meet with Emily Toast. So thanks, Emily, for making the time to meet with us. But just thought it would be a great opportunity for us to come and say, hey, we're new to the area. What's going on that you guys see? What are the needs that you recognise are happening in this area? And then how can we best serve those? And all of that we do from since we were born as a trust in 2004 has all been to serve the local community in ways that the community see our needs in the community. So we've currently run over in Upper Riccarton, we run an after-school program at no cost to families. We do that so that it's the most accessible to children in need that's identified by local teachers and our youth workers in schools. We have youth workers in 2 schools in Upper Riccarton. We have one in a Springston school, and then most recently we've just launched a 24/7 youth worker in Parkview Pārua school. So they're youth workers. I don't know if you've come across 24/7 youth work possibly before, but they're employed 10 hours a week in school in partnership with a school, in partnership with a church, and then often in partnership with a youth trust, and that's us, Levita Youth Trust, and who all three contribute towards their salaries. It really just has an investment of the whole community in youth worker, and then in the support of the young people, but also of the wider whānau as well. So we have an after-school program, we have youth workers, we work currently with red frogs. That's, a lot of people go, what in the world is red frogs? It's actually a lolly. It kind of looks, it's similar to a New Zealand jet plane, but really it's working with university students predominantly around the areas of alcohol, intoxication and substance abuse. And so we're in at a whole lot of university events at O Weeks, most major music festivals over summer, working with team events and a whole lot of other agencies to provide patron welfare. So we offer safe walk homes at the end of events, making sure students can get home safely. We hand out a whole lot of pancakes and water at events to try and keep people hydrated and kind of absorb some of those harmful substances they might have ingested. We also employ over in the Upper Riccarton, we have a community worker who just connects with families and connects them in with local agencies. This year we've started with a university pastoral care worker as well, recognising on from the youth, from the red frog side, that we might have got the young person home safely at the end of the night, but the next day in the coming weeks and months is how do they then navigate and make better choices with their life. And so we've employed a pastoral care worker to then follow up with those students and help them connect in a much more broader sense, really taking care of their full well-being so that they can reach their potential. I think it's kind of all we currently run. I'll probably remember something a little bit later. But being new to this side of town, we have launched a youth worker. I don't know if you've had a chance or have driven past QE2 or 71 Atlantis Street, just opposite QE2 Pools and Avonside Girls and Shirley Boys. So as with my other hat on as Life Church, we launched a campus of our church there in June of last year. And then they've given us the use of, when the buildings are built, a big youth facility that they're building on the back of that property right near the basketball hoop. So they've kind of said, well, we've established a campus out here. We've worked so closely with them over the years. And so Levita Youth Trust, would you come and help serve this community as well? And so we're part of building a youth facility in our Upper Riccarton location. And so now we're building one here in QE2, which we're really excited about the opportunities to serve. As we've been talking with a whole lot of other organisations, or we've been along to a few community meetings, hearing the need about something for young people to do after school or of an evening. And so the idea of community drop-in centre for young people has kept coming up. And being that it's kind of how we started as a trust, we started with a basketball and a basketball hoop on a Friday night. We went, wow, what a great chance for us to kind of go back to our roots and help establish something out here as well. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking to do. But in all that we want to do, we really want to be serving our community, serving the people that we all work with, not just doing programs because we think they're a good idea or they've worked somewhere else, but is this really something that the community wants and is going to have buy-in on? So I think that's a lot of information quickly. Is there any questions about who we are or what we do and all those sort of things?
I don't know that we have an awful lot of time for questions, Jeremiah, but perhaps I can ask a couple just on behalf of the board. And just let me start by saying thank you so much for that presentation. I mean, it's organisations like yours that just massively change people's lives, and especially young people, who perhaps are, looking for a bit of direction at a time in their lives where they're not so sure how things are going to pan out. So thank you for the work you're doing in the community. I just want to know two questions, perhaps on behalf of the board. How are you funded, and then what motivates you to do what you do?
Cool. How are we funded? Mostly through community grants and funders, so the likes of Rata Lotteries, Christchurch City Council, the Hallswell-Cornby Community Board have been very generous to us over previous years because of predominantly our work has been there. And then through the 24/7 youth workers and things, that's a partnership being with the school and local church, who each contribute 25% to those, leaving the other 50% that we find funding elsewhere. The likes of our Red Frogs programs, if we're partnering with events, there's often a cost associated with those. And so for us to provide, so we have some event income in that way as well. But and then we've got donations as well, which make up a small proportion of what we do. So the majority is through grants and funding applications. And then what drives us is we just really believe in the potential of young people, and we really think young people need positive role models who will walk alongside them, not just for a month or two, but will do it over a long period of time. And so that's our investment in youth workers. We know it's not often a quick fix, but will often be that consistent factor over a long period of time to see community change. And so we just love working with young people and their wider whānau, recognising that their whole well-being, not just their physical, but their spiritual or their emotional, their mental well-being is all a part of that. And so we just really want to see young people really thrive.
Look, that's fantastic, Jeremiah. Really appreciate you coming along and telling us a little bit about yourselves and what motivates you and how you fund it, etc. Hopefully we'll be hearing more of you. We really appreciate the work that you do in our community, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Can you see us all waving to you?
I can.
Okay, that's good. All right, thanks, Jeremiah. Okay, that's wonderful. So let's move on to our next public forum. And I'm really, really happy to welcome Carolyn Robertson, who's going to talk about the All Saints building project update. And she'll speak on behalf of the All Saints Anglican Church and provide us with an update on the building project. So welcome, Carolyn. I think you're known to a number of the board members. We're really looking forward to hearing from you. Hope you're well.
Yes, kia ora. Well, thanks so much for having us back. I've also got somewhere on the screen Daniel McMullen, who is our project manager, so he can fill in all the details I might not know, but we've got pictures here. So starting off the first slide, we've got just the scene as it is now, and you can see on there some of the building on its way there. But if we swing around to the next picture now, this is kind of the real treat. This is what the building is going to be looking out over, the eventual greening of the red zone. And then if you look down the river a little bit more on this next slide, you can kind of see the full vista of what it is that it's going to look over. And I think it's really going to capture, some of the beauty that has now arrived in this area because of the earthquakes, which, just these beautiful green zones and the river. Last time I came, we kind of gave you concepts if this is what we'd like to see, and now I can show you the architectural drawings where it's at now. So this is a picture of what we'll be looking out over the river. So incredible glass frontage there, which will look out over it. And then this is from the side angle, and then round the back as well has got great glass there. And so next one is the floor plan. And that bottom half is the building, and it's a big building. It's going to be oriented towards that incredible view, and it's got a whole lot of spaces. I'll whip through, and you can kind of see on the top left the picture. Here it is. So this is the front, the deck area, and this is kind of the vibe where we're getting it from. And then the next one, big community space. This is where we want to offer free Wi-Fi, place for the community to come and hang out. And then we've got, I think, dance studio. We always have heaps of requests from groups looking for space to hire for dance groups. We want a dedicated kids space, and this will be particularly, so it's the next one, for therapists to be able to hire, as well as for specifically children's spaces. We've got a meeting room, and then we have a recording studio, a youth room upstairs, and this one looks down over the dance area. And then we're putting in the back, making the most of the site that we're in and the huge tree that was felled, kind of outdoor nature-based play area. And so this last picture here, this is the sort of vibe, won't quite look as spectacular, but these are the sort of inspirations that we're going for. Where it's at the moment, it is in for resource consent, and it has been there since December. So we are hoping any minute now that we can get assigned a planner And that is what we are hoping for. And then once it goes through that process, then it goes into for building consent, and our architect says it's 55 working days to go through that process before we'll get a consultant to then begin working. So at the moment, it's just months and months of kind of in the process with the council. So if there's one thing we'd like to ask is if there is someone who can help advocate for us in that process. But it's on track, it's looking good. The key thing at the moment is the methodology around using a second-hand building and making sure it's watertight and safe. But we are super excited by the facility, and already we are having groups coming saying, do you have this sort of space, and we can show them the plans and like partner with us now, this is what you're going to get, you know, when it's all finished. So that's quite exciting for the groups in the community. Obviously with COVID, there's less groups wanting to hire things at the moment, but we hope that as it all passes, we'll be ready there with a space for the community to use.
Wonderful. Carolyn, do you have a kind of a projected completion date?
I'll ask Daniel because he just told me before. It's a bit longer than I thought.
And Daniel, welcome. Sorry, I didn't see you there before.
No, that's quite all right. Thank you for having us. So with the being a second-hand building, we are a bit more resilient to some of the building supply issues at this stage, but there is some of that which will still have some of the impact. But we're hoping for middle of 2023, possibly later in that year, depending on how things go. But that'll firm up as we kind of go through that building consent process and have some more discussions with the contractor. Okay. I don't want to promise too much too quick, too soon.
Yeah, always a good policy. I'm going to, just because we've got a bit of time, I'm going to allow another question. But first, let me just say how wonderful it is to have your organisation operating in the area. I mean, I used to live just around the corner, and all the board make jokes about the fact that I've lived everywhere in the wards, but yeah, I mean, we lost that hall by the school there, and a lot of other facilities around our area, and community spaces are one thing that we're definitely missing in the Burwood ward. And, you know, the fact that you can have a recording studio, you know, things like that are just, they're going to be really unique and such a welcome feature. So, Linda, I know you're anxious to say something.
Said it all. You haven't left anything for me to say, but I am excited. I'm really excited, Carolyn. There's been a great need since the earthquakes for another facility. There's the one around the corner isn't really big enough, and yours just looks spot on. I'm really, really pleased, and I know that Burwood will use it. They really will. They will use your building, and hopefully you can manage.
Does the other Burwood community board member like to comment?
Just echoing Linda's sentiment that it's a fantastic facility, and it'll be well welcomed and well received by the community. So thank you very much, Carolyn, for your pushing this through and making it happen.
I want to say thanks to all the community board and councillors that have supported us. We have really appreciated it, from finding the building right through to supporting it. And sorry about that call coming through. It's my friend with COVID, but yes, I'll have to wait. But yeah, we've really appreciated all the support we have had from you all. So thank you.
I think I was the one that rang you and said there's this building that we're having trouble getting into Preston's area.
Yes, I sat and patiently waited just to see if it didn't work there. We were in the wings.
I just did not want to see that building go outside of the ward. I really, you know, it's such a good opportunity for us. And might I say, I think Phil would be a great coordinating guy for you. And I have an idea. Isn't he the board appointment for
the liaison? Yeah, and actually, good point. That brings us to Phil. You got your hand up there, Phil?
Carolyn, thank you. Can you please send Kelly, who will send me, or you can text me direct, the building consent number or the resource consent number of where it's at, and I have a man who I can ask on where things are at.
Awesome.
Right, you've
got I was going to suggest that. Well, that's great. Thanks, Phil, and thanks everybody. Look, thanks, Carolyn. Really appreciate the work that you guys are doing in the community. You know, like I say, we've had a desperate need for facilities in the Burwood since the earthquakes. It's been a long time, and it's going to be great. There's a lot of good things happening. So thank you very much for the update. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. All right. All right. I do believe that is the end of the public forums. So we'll move on to deputations by appointment, which there are none. So that brings us to item 6, presentation of petitions. And I have none. So we'll move on to item 7, which is correspondence. So we've got 2 here. First is that the Waitai Coastal Burwood Community Board received the correspondence from the Burwood East Residents Association. So Cindy, were you going to pop in and summarise that for us?
So if it's the will of the board, I'll just take the report as read alongside both items of correspondence and just refer you to the officer recommendation.
Okay. Yeah, so that's in relation to the safe pedestrian access on the New Brighton Road stop bank. So I went along there and had a wee look the other day, and yeah, rather interesting. So do we have a mover? So Linda is going to move that. I'm happy to second it. Would we like to debate it? Would anyone like to discuss it? Yep, Bibi.
Just a point of clarification, we're moving both parts at once, both pieces of correspondence.
Yeah, no, we're just doing one. Sorry, we're just going to separate this out. So just the Burwood East Residents Association, I guess, referring their concerns to staff for investigation and response back to us.
Cool.
So that's the first one that we'll deal with them individually. Does anybody want to make any? Sorry, Bibi.
I'm happy to second it. While
I think it's already been recommended and seconded. So would anyone like to debate it, discuss it?
No, I'm just going to say, well done, Burwood East Residents Group. They're quite forward thinking and very community minded. And if we didn't have that group, I think they would disappear into oblivion as a community. So I really admire the work they're doing.
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, as I mentioned, I popped along and had a look at that piece of the stop bank to see what it was that they were talking about. And there is a sort of a substantial tree which does interfere. It's very steep on the sides, that piece of stop bank, and I think that I can see why council has blocked it off, because if you would walk along there, it'd probably be fine, but actually biking along there, if you made a small mistake, there would be significant consequences. So it'll be interesting to see what staff will say to that. So anyway, the motion's been put and it's been seconded. So all those in favour, raise their hand. And so that's unanimous. So there are no opposed. So that's carried. So that'll go to staff and they will they'll bring us a response back. So let's move on to the second part, which is from the Pakeko Centre. Cindy, would you like to pipe in and...
So this is an item of correspondence following a briefing the board received at its meeting, I think it was on the 14th of February, just from the Pakeko Centre. So as the board may recall from the council's annual plan meeting, there was an addition to grant the Pakeko Centre $200,000 per annum for the next 2 financial years, put into the draft annual plan for public consultation. So this is them just asking the board to support that in the board's submission on the annual plan. So my recommendation here is just for the board to take that into consideration and when they have their submissions committee.
Okay, so Celeste, would you like to move that we accept that? Okay, and do we have a seconder? Joe? Thank you. Okay, would anyone like to discuss, debate, make a statement? No? Shaking heads? Okay, well, I'll put that. Then all those in favour raise their hand. Okay, that's unanimous, so there are no opposed. So That's carried too. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, so we'll move on to item 8 on the agenda, part A. So this is the dedication of the road reserve as a legal road, Cameo Grove, just down from Linda's house. And,
happy to move it, Kelly.
Okay, so Phil's happy to move. Linda, would you like to second it?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Okay.
I'll tell you why in a moment.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm happy to second it, but we'll start with perhaps Raymond and Wenkei. Is that correct? Did I get your name correctly there? Yeah. Would you like to perhaps make a statement, or do the board have any questions for the gentleman?
I'm happy to answer any questions, but yeah, apart from that, I think it's quite straightforward. It's just a dedication after the physical work. Thanks.
Okay, so we'll start with questions. Linda?
Yeah, the reason why I've declined to support it is because the people on both sides of the linkage weren't very happy with that going through. I can see the logic in it, and they can too, but it's causing, and they knew this would happen, it's causing speeding problems at both ends. The other issue is it's pretty tricky turning right out onto Burwood Road because of all the cars that are parked along there, and there's only a short stretch of straight road that they've got, short notice to get across, if that makes sense, if I said that right. Other than that, I think it's it is productive to have it there, but I just felt I couldn't be seen to support it because of the opposition, and really that was because they were never consulted when the the subdivision consents were going through, and I feel for them there. They should have had a chance. So I think I've made myself clear.
Okay, do you have any questions? Phil?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I think you're right, Linda. There's a bit of pressure on there now, but I think that we've got to really crack on and get the opening out to Mariha Road done as quick as we possibly can. And Jen, you might be able to tell us, is the shovel ready to hit the ground yet out there, mate?
Yeah, yes. I mean, Cameo Grove, there's an issue of that linkage for a long time already. I think Phil most of people remember that in his early days. I mean, we bought the two parcel of road from the previous owner as part of the negotiation for snelling drain some of the land. That's how, and that legal road, that parcel of land is meant for access onto the part of the section at that time on the eastern side on the western side of snelling drain. So things have been done at that time. That was well before the plan change of Marshland. So there is a property right issue there to start off, and from the planning point of view, it's logical with the development there to join into the Burwood Road because it gives them a more resilient routes for all the development around it. So yes, I'm sorry that you don't get consulted, but because it's a resource consent issue, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to say, yeah, obviously things will be a lot better when the subdivision opens out onto Mariha Road. I think we see the sense in this. I certainly see the sense in it. When I look across Preston's Road at the Preston's subdivision, there are 3 main outlets, Torito, Tikarari, and then at the far end at Spencerville. But with at the moment, there's only one outlet from Preston's Park, with the small one that we're, I guess, dealing with today, and it certainly has made it a wee bit difficult for residents, and there is an awful lot of them down there. yeah, anyway, thank you. Linda, you've got final word there?
I'm just following up. I think Phil asked when the outlet onto Marihau Road was going ahead. I didn't pick up that he got that answered.
Marihau Road is a bit of a hiccup with the development, with the infrastructure provision agreement. So I managed to manage to progress this further, because I'm going to split the stormwater section and the road section in two separate sections, and then bring the road section to be constructed as soon as possible. The infrastructure agreement have been forwarded to CDL last week, so I hope to get it back from them. And then once the agreement has been signed, I get it that it will happen very, very fast.
Well, that's really good news, and the Facebook community here is very, very active. And I think it'd be really nice if we could be advised. Phil and I could be advised, and Phoebe, of course, she's the other Burwood board member. If we could be advised, so we can just let that community know.
Yeah. Yes, I'll definitely will do that, because I get on a lot of inquiry coming through to me, because I'm get sick and tired too for this comment coming through. And,
I'm sick and tired.
It has been the ongoing journey for the last 2 years on that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Phil, did you have another one there, or is that just no? You're fine. All right. Well, we have a motion before us, and it's been moved and seconded, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye or raise their hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. There are none opposed, so that's carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming along. Appreciate the that you're trying to expedite things as much as possible in the subdivision. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so the next item is item 9, which is the slow speed neighbourhoods Avondale. So I'd like to welcome Gemma, and it looks like Charlotte as well, and perhaps Hannah as well. 3 people have suddenly appeared. Yeah, perhaps you can discuss this for us or with us. Yep. I've got a cat barking at the door of my house, which is driving me nuts.
Kia ora. That's okay. Yes, so I'm Gemma. I'm the author of the report, but I am still new to council. So I am going to ask my team members, Charlotte and Hannah, to give you some updates and feedback on the consultation that we carried out on the Slow Speed Neighbourhoods project in Avondale. I think Charlotte will go first.
Great. Thanks, Gemma. I don't believe I've met or been spoken to you guys before on Speed, so I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm working with a company called DHD, and so helping council on the slow speed neighbourhood zones, but also developing the wider speed program, which is being built. And my background is speed management for a number of years now, and working in lots of different types of speed management, state highways, local roads, neighbourhoods, schools, bit of everything here and there. So that is my background. But to keep things nice and quick, do we have a presentation handy? I think it did get sent through. If not, I might ask. Oh, look at that. Magic. Just like that. So I'll just pop to that second slide. We're here to discuss the Avondale speed review, which I believe went to consultation towards the end of last year. I'll just quickly run over as a refresher. It was a while ago. It's the why behind why we're looking at speeds in neighbourhoods. So fundamentally, it comes down to the overarching road strategy that's heralded by the Ministry of Transport and the Christchurch City Council supports, which is the Road to Zero strategy. It has a number of goals in its overall vision, of course, 0 deaths on our road, but something a little bit more tangible is the 40% reduction in death and serious injury crashes by 2030. It's a lofty target, and there are lots of ways that we are addressing this. And speed management is just one of those tools that we are using to achieve this. It's not a silver bullet. There are a lot of other things that need to happen to meet this target. But today, right here, right now, we are looking at where we can make meaningful change. And we feel that speeds in neighbourhoods is one of those areas where we can really look to create a better place for our communities. So saving lives is only one of the benefits. We've got improved connectivity, we have reduced traffic noises, and of course the improved safety outside schools is another thing that gets ticked off when we look at safer speeds. So that's just a brief summary of the why. If we go to the next slide, we'll just refresh on what we consulted on. So this is in Avondale area. It's quite nicely geographically bounded by not only the red zone, but also the river and those main roads through there. The proposal is for 40 kilometres throughout all these neighbourhood roads. A lot of the operating speeds are already close or at that speed, if not lower in some places as well. So it's considered what we call a self-explaining or an easy win neighbourhood for this treatment. I'm just going to pass, so that's some of the technical stuff. I'm going to pass over to Hannah now to go over the consultation summary and what we heard from the general public.
Cool, so pretty brief here. Consultation ran from the 5th of November to the 5th of December. We did the standard letterbox, flyers, newsline stories, social media, signage on the site, and the online Have Your Say form. Overall, we heard from submitters that 40% were clearly for the changes, 23% were clearly against, and the remainder 37 showed no indication either way. Again, not too surprising. The key themes were that they would like traffic calming measures to be to come into play in addition to decreasing the speed, and the need for legal reinforcement. So calming measures, including speed bumps, strata bars, were outside of the scope of the project, as it's looking at addressing the areas where the current average operating speeds in road environment all generally support the reduced speed already without need for further treatment. And as usual, in terms of legal reinforcement, we notify the police, and we can ask them to do all we can, but they have no control over their resource allocation. So yeah, that was kind of it. Does anyone have any questions on the consultation or
the
project in general?
Thank you, team. So we'll start with Bibi had her hand up first, and then Linda, and then I've got a couple of questions as well, which may or may not need answering after two experienced people asked theirs. So we'll start with you, Bibi.
Thank you. Having read the report, the overwhelming sense is that traffic calming is a good idea. You kind of skipped over why you wouldn't do traffic calming. Can you just say that again in a bit more detail, please?
Do you want me to grab this one, Hannah?
Yep, that'd be great.
Yeah, great. No, happy. So traffic calming, at the end of the day, it comes with a price tag. And one of the reasons why we selected Avondale was we put all the neighbourhoods in Christchurch through a bit of a prioritisation tool, which took into account not only safety, but also community feedback and desire for change, the speed limits, and also the cost factors that are associated with needing to, essentially, what would we need to do to the road to make it 40 k's an hour? On a road such as this, where the operating speeds are already coming through very low, and the I guess the uses of these streets are purely residential, where we're not seeing, pockets of commercial or large amounts of through traffic on arterials or collectors. It's a very nice, well-defined pocket of residential, and the red zone, of course, does add a layer of slow moving traffic through there at the moment, because there's not much on one side. It really came down to the fact that the environment itself already lends to this 40k environment, that it doesn't necessarily need that traffic calming at this time. Now, that's not saying that what part of the process of a speed change is that we do have to monitor the implementation of a speed limit afterwards to make sure that people are driving at those speeds. And if we are seen to have non-compliance on some of the roads, then we would then have to look again at, right, what do we need to do more to bring those speeds down to 40? So this is an area where the data is pointing to the fact that this is a bit of a no-brainer. It can be done relatively cheaply and effectively. And if we feel that it's not meeting those thresholds, then we would come back and look again at traffic calming measures.
Okay, because that was my second question. It's good that you're saying that at this time, because monitoring is actually really important, which was what I was going to ask. Absolutely. And then just the follow-up is that I would really like to see, and I don't know if you have considered or will consider, doing, instead of gold-plated traffic calming, we like that phrase, gold-plated. There's a lot of it going on in our city that's unnecessary. Something similar to what is happening in Ferry Road, where they've put in some very low-cost funneling of cycle traffic that has been quite innovative, I think, and thinking of other ways to do traffic calming without spending zillions of dollars. So I would like to see that considered if you haven't already.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Gemma, you might be able to talk a bit more to this if you are aware of that Ferry Road project. It's a bit outside of my realm of knowledge. Is that the Living Streets initiative?
It's a cycleway that's, sorry.
That's okay. It was put through from the Innovating Streets Fund, and it's a two-way cycleway, and we've narrowed the carriageway using paint and planters and posts, and there is nothing to say that we can't use our lines and signs budget more efficiently. But at the minute, we would like to implement with just the gateway thresholds, which is the red squares with the 40 marked on the top and the signage. And then we'll come back and monitor to see where changes are needed, if they are needed, just to make sure that we have enough to cover our 5 slow-speed neighbourhoods that are in the long-term plan. But nothing's to say that it can't be added to in future.
Okay. Thank you, Bibi. Thank you, Linda.
Yeah. Did you get an idea what the speeds have been on those streets, particularly Brymont Street, Waratah Street?
Yeah, so part of our assessment, we analyse what's called the average operating speeds. So the average operating speeds are taken from various data sources that basically any vehicle that has a form of GPS either on their person or in their vehicle. So it could be a phone, it could be various sorts. That all gets compiled through various systems, and it's reported into a mapping software that we use that tells us what the general speed, operating speed of those roads are based on real-time data. So the assessment that indicated that those streets, based on the data that was available, people are generally operating under 40 k's an hour, and then sorry.
All right, carry on.
Yep, and that's just what the data says. It can be you can't really interpret it any other way. That's just how it is, and it's I can't quite recall street specifics right at this time. But when we do our assessment, if there are any streets that are looking to be on the slightly higher side, then we would seriously consider whether 40k is the right speed for it or not. And during this process, we did look at all the streets, and none of them were raised as red flags at that time. So that's how our process goes at a high level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you aware that residents in Brymont Street in particular did a petition and presented that to the board last year?
I was not, sorry. I was not part of the team or the project at that time.
The concern was those roads are being used as through roads, shortcuts, and the speed was unacceptable and dangerous. So I can see why, and the comments were very interesting. And the one I picked up on really was, what's the use of having some signs? We really need the traffic calming. And I wouldn't like to see good money spent where it's not going to be effective. And that's the feeling I'm getting from these people reading the individual comments. And it'll be streets that you had in your consultation area that speeds would really well be 40 and under. But some of those long straight roads like Brymont or Waratah and the other one slips my name, around the river that comes out onto Wainoni Road. And I've seen the speeds there. Which one?
Oric.
Yeah, Oric. That's brain fade. Yeah, I've seen the speeds. I've sat there and watched those speeds as well, and they really are unacceptable. So I wonder if you got the consultation area right. That's my question.
Did we get the consultation area right? The way that we have to treat speed limits is essentially at a network level. So when we look at these neighbourhood areas, we kind of look at the streets and we say, right, what do we want? We would like these streets to be neighbourhoods, or we would like these streets to operate as collectors. And I think, as you said, the residents who put the petition forward, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like that they would like their street to operate at a slower speed.
Yeah.
And therefore that indicates to us that it shouldn't be treated as a collector, and therefore it was captured as part of this neighbourhood, because we're aware that is the desire for that road. The desire is for it to be treated as a neighbourhood street. And I guess this kind of goes back to that monitoring, where 40k, the data is showing that 40k will be supported, but maybe perhaps, and that's where the anecdotal evidence is really key from this consultation, is to hear, okay, yes, the data is saying people are travelling less than 40, but that data is accumulated on an average of significant amounts of data sources that can only be maybe a couple of vehicles travelling at excess speeds that are still enough to create uncertainty in that living environment. And I completely agree with you that, in the sense that we want to make sure our money is spent where it is valued. But from the community feedback that I had received, that took into consideration when choosing these neighbourhoods across the city, that area stood out to us as quite a nice little pocket that is geographically bounded. It made sense from a community perspective, and also from a cost perspective, which we do have to take into consideration, that right now it is what we consider an easy win in this program. So it's a balancing act of these kind of cost, community, safety tensions that we have to take into consideration. And I'm hoping that the monitoring will be really, really good evidence as to whether or not we've done the right thing, or if we need to do more. So I'm sorry, I hope that answered your question, Linda.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And I'm pleased there is going to be monitoring, because I think that should give us a steer that there's more work to be done on those straight through roads.
And you never know, it might be that the signs are enough. It's something that could surprise us. We have experienced that in the past, where we were concerned that the signs wouldn't be enough, and then we were proved wrong. So it may end up that the monitoring proves otherwise, but it is really always good to get this feedback from the community, because this is the stuff that sometimes the data doesn't tell us.
And just one short question, I didn't pick up, what's the cost of this project for Avondale?
I do not have that on the top of my head. I'm sorry, Gemma, do you magically pull that one out?
Yeah, so the current cost from the contractor is around 18,000 to install our gateways and signs. And as before the signs and markings go in, we will be putting some tube counts down, just to start collecting that baseline for monitoring. And I think I hear right that Bryman, Waratah and Oric will definitely be on the list for those tube counts. So yes, so around 18,000 currently to implement the slow speed neighbourhood.
Okay, I think probably well spent.
Yeah,
because we're going to get some monitoring. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jules.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Phil, are you leaning forward to ask a question, or?
I was going to do debate, but I can ask it now. It doesn't matter. I'd just like to say I'm very pleased to see this has finally come to fruition, because when I was doing electioneering last time, I think there was a lot of talk about that, and I think Linda was there at the action. So it's good to see that it's finally coming to pass, and if it works half as well as what everyone's thinking, it'll be a good result. Thanks.
That's quite all right.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, I just got a couple of points to make. Yeah, when I read through all the raw data, or the raw comments, you know, I could just see essentially that people wanted enforcement and traffic calming. And if this is a step in the process to get that, then I think it'll be great. I think you've identified that there are sort of outliers, people who are driving too fast through there. That's certainly the feedback from the community. I was just monitoring Facebook the other day, and, you know, they showed somebody had spun out and gone through a fence. That sort of antisocial behaviour is going to become more, I guess, obvious in light of a lower speed neighbourhood. So I think that's going to be good. I suspect that, you know, this area is, I don't see it really as a through fare. I think it'll be local residents who are actually driving fast, and it'll just be a few outliers, and hopefully this will have an effect on that. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what happens to the space. So anyway, we have a motion before us. I think we're ready to vote. Are we? Any further questions? No, I think we're ready. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a wee while, but did somebody move it and second it?
No, but I'm happy to.
No, I'm happy.
Linda, you're happy to move, and then Phil's happy to second. So we have mover and seconder. Any debate? No? Okay, so I'll put
the only thing, sorry, Kelly, the only thing that I'd pick up on is putting these things in place. Are they going to be enforced?
Would you like to try and answer that, Charlie?
Yeah, sure. So I think Hannah loosely did touch on that. Enforcement is a big part of the puzzle, and it is written throughout multiple research papers of speed management and experiences overseas and even within New Zealand, that without it, it is a much harder thing to achieve compliance, and engineering design plays a big part. But yes, without that enforcement, it's trickier. City Council, as part of the legal process, we do notify and have those discussions with police around the new speed limit. It is a requirement, and there is, I believe, discussions at a more national level with Waka Kotahi, who own the speed limit change legal process, that they would like to see police enforcement in this space, in a much more of it, I guess you could say. And that's just to support that road to zero vision and the understanding that it's not just, you can't just do one part, you have to do all parts of the system to make it work. So I completely agree that we need that enforcement piece, but as Hannah mentioned, it is somewhat out of the council's hands, whether or not they act on that. And so I can only encourage yourselves as community board to, if you have the ability, to ask police and encourage your local police to keep an eye on that and those behaviours in these areas. It's a really tough one from a staff perspective, where we don't necessarily have that influence at that level. But do be aware it is part of the legal process for us to notify them of the change, and we can always highlight to them those potential high risk, those faster streets where there are that community concern. So
okay,
thank
you.
Can I just
Linda, just the final one.
Yeah, sorry. Only because you've raised a point. We did raise this with the police community policing team, and nothing came of it, unfortunately. And I think they've got bigger fish to fry. So it just fell through the cracks.
Yeah, it is a really tricky one. It's I guess it's the classic case of the greasy.
I'd really like them to use that 105 number and just put a complaint in, but people don't know about it, and it's getting that news out there. Unfortunately, we don't have a residents association there. It's been a real mission to try and get that to happen. And through a newsletter, we could say, look, you speeding complaints, dangerous driving, here's the number, here's the website, go for it. And then maybe we get the police in there. That would happen then.
Thank you, Linda. As someone who lives in a slow-speed neighbourhood, sometimes I have seen enforcement people from time to time, and but at the same time, I've seen people drive 100 k's an hour down 40k, so they know what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's difficult to do something about that. You've got to figure that sooner or later they're going to get caught, and they will be punished. Anyway,
I haven't been yet driving through your area.
Don't you dare. All right, so we've had the motion put and we've had it seconded. Oh, sorry, we've had it moved and seconded. So I'll put the motion now. All those in favour raise their hand. And opposed, none. So that's carried unanimously again. Thank you, Charlotte, Hannah, and Gemma. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
The space. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Good afternoon.
Right. Moving right along, team. We are up to item 10 on the agenda, which is the Burwood Road proposed stopping restrictions. And so I'd like to invite Wayne to speak to us. Wayne?
Hi, afternoon, Chair and councillors and members. Thanks for having me. I don't think we've met. I think I might have met a couple of years. I've done a little stint with Burwood previously, but mainly Papua New Guinea area engineer, but I'm helping out the team, and you might see me over the next few months with a few more reports and emails floating around. So yeah, so thanks for having me. So this proposal has mainly come about following concerns mainly raised by Waitakere school representatives, just with the concerns around mainly the Clear Park entranceway and Clearvale Street. So we did some investigating, and mainly at peak times, both of those locations were quite heavily parked out. So it's created a lot of turn movements in and out of both of those locations. So we had a look at some sight lines around the entranceways and the intersection. So they weren't really up to standard with the intersection site distances. So we've basically put forward a proposal today to just install the minimum site distances required. I actually worked it out at a 50k environment, which meant we were losing 4 parks on the east side of Burwood Road. However, I recalculated since the initial proposal. Considering there might be a chance that 30k might be around school frontages, I sort of worked it out as a 40k environment, which allowed us to gain 1 park on the east side back. So consultation went out to all affected residents and owners, and we got good support. One came back objecting to the length, so the re-evaluation of the distance on the east side has helped, and I've since emailed back the submitter and I haven't heard back. So further to this investigation, we have also done some work around the Clear Park entranceway. I don't have any photos to bring up, I'm sorry, but we put in a speed hump and some pedestrian warning signage, some no stopping, and also the removal of a hedge between the entranceway and the number 163 property. So the owner of that property was very happy as well. So yeah, very straightforward report. I think it's all covered in there. I think the displacement of the parks on both sides, there was available spaces nearby to accommodate for that displacement outside of peak times. During the peak times is the issue, and that's what we're talking about. Parking is, I think if you've been down Burwood Road at school pickup times, you'll know both sides, and Clearvale and Clear Park. It's pretty chocker. So I'm not saying there's available parks nearby during those times, but outside of those peak times, there is available spaces for the residents, for their visitors as well. So yeah, happy for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. We'll start with Linda.
Can you just clarify for me, are you looking at taking away 3 parks?
3 parks on the east side and 2 parks on the west side, yes.
Okay.
The initial report had 4 parks, but like I say, I recalculated the distance based on the speed speed limit. Initially it was a 50k, which needed 4 spaces, the first 4 spaces, but now we've calculated for 40k, which bring it back to 3 spaces.
And if they're taken away permanently, or are
yes,
they,
it'll be yellow. Yes,
because
yellow.
I did wonder, could you not have no parking during X time, peak times, so that those parks are still there?
Yeah, we've looked
Can I talk to that one? Sorry.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
My name's Ashley. I'm Community Travel Advisor for schools. So I'm working with Waitakere Primary at the moment around these issues. Currently, we are working with schools that have those timed no parking restrictions, and it's not working for them at all, unfortunately. So we're having to go back to put yellow permanent lines in to save you seeing us again in a couple of months to put some permanent lines in. It's probably best that we just kind of stick.
Okay, I'm going to bow to your superior knowledge there, Ashley, and withdraw that question.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Wayne or Ashley? I have a few, but I'll wait till everybody else is gone. Anybody else? Okay, good.
I'm happy to move. I think it makes sense.
Well, okay, thanks. We've got some. I've got some questions. So, can you tell us about any accidents around that area? Have there been any accidents that you can? Because that school's been there for an awful long time. I mean, my wife went there 40 odd years ago.
No, we did a cash search in the last 5 years. There haven't been any accidents as such at that intersection. It's just the general feel of the rushed turn movements in and out of both of those locations, and that would be a lot safer if there was clear visibility. So you're right, there hasn't actually been any accidents, which is pleasing around a school for a start. So just clearing up the sight lines will make any turn movements a lot safer.
Right. So I went down there this morning actually during school drop-off and quizzed people as they were coming out of Clearvale Street, the vast majority of who were turning left into Burwood Road and heading south, I guess you would call it.
Yes.
Actually took my cup of tea down there and motioned for people, and they stopped and I asked them questions. I also parked my car in the second car park to the north and asked them if they could see around that or whether that car was a problem. Now, I drive a Mazda CX-5, which is kind of like a poor man's four-wheel drive, I suppose. Most of the people that I spoke to didn't think it was an issue. So that would have been adding the yellow lines one further back to the north if you took away one car parking space there. I also asked them their thoughts. A lot of them do turn into Clearvale Street to drop off their kids and then turn around and then come out of there. A couple of people said that if there was yellow lines, people would probably still stop there anyway, which of course reminded me of the time that I used to drop my kids off in Innes Road at the school that they went to, where people would do the craziest things on the yellow lines and stop and drop kids off. The other thing I wanted to note is that on the other side of the road where the Clare Park entrance comes out, there is a park there. Obviously, you have the idea to put yellow lines in there, which makes absolute perfect sense. I just wonder why they haven't been done till now, because I mean that is a really, really, if you park a car right there, it's right beside the entrance to the park, yet nothing has been done about that before.
Yeah, look, you've brought up good points for all of them. All I can say for the Clare Park entrance side is that it was brought, the school have come to us and asked us to investigate the area as a whole for any safety issues. So that's one thing I identified on my site visit. So that's why I'm bringing that situation up now. And the other one you're bringing up about Clearvale Street. So once again, we've been asked to look into it, and the amount of turn movements in and out of Clearvale and looking at the sight lines, it doesn't meet the required standards. So we feel council now has it's been brought up, we've actually got a duty to bring it up to standard, regardless if someone parks on those lines or not. we've brought it up to standard. We can pass on any further issues to the parking enforcement team. So people might turn left, but a lot of people, when I've noticed, were turning right, and that's the main issue. And instead of trying to do fast turns when in front of other cars, we just want to open up that sight line, because it's chocker down there. Both sides of Clearvale are parked out fully from one end to the other. They're even parked in that P3 area up at the cul-de-sac. So so we'll pass that on to parking enforcement to monitor that bit as well. So yep, you've brought some valid points. However, we just have to, we've been asked to look into something, and this is our approach and response.
So can I ask who at the school asked? Is it a teacher or
so I guess I can talk to that a bit more. So I'm working with the school on a school travel plan. So I guess you could say the whole school community in a way has been asked on it. So they filled out a travel survey and voiced their concerns to us, and there was a lot of concerns about parents turning out of Clare Park and also parents turning out of Clearvale Street. So I guess that's where it's kind of come from, is that consultation that we've had with that school community. And their working group, their transport working group, has kind of asked us that those 2 points were a priority for us to look into for them, just because there's a lot of movement. And also about the addition of the yellow lines and kind of people obeying them, we will follow it up with our Park Smart program as well. So 1 week of education and 1 week of enforcement, just to help the parents kind of learn and reinforce that we are here. And then the parking officers will do some random kind of deployment there, I guess you could say, to just check up that people are still obeying kind of those the P3s that they've got there, and also the yellow lines. So
okay, I didn't see the P3s there that you're.
They're just on the other side of the care crossing.
On which side?
But I think it's both sides of the street, Wayne.
Yeah. Both sides of the road. I actually just recently installed further P3 signage. I noticed during the investigations that one end of the P3 signage was missing. So I talked to the residents and made sure that they were aware that it was actually a P3 area, and we were going to be reinstalling some signage, and they were fine. So so that's been reinstated now, so to make it legal. Otherwise, parking enforcement team wouldn't have actually legally been able to do anything about it if a sign is missing from one end.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it is both sides of Burwood Road.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, just some other observations. I mean, I'm not sure that the residents or the owners, who live in the area, have too much skin in the game. At the end of the day, I guess it's about parents dropping off their kids during high peak times. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, if it was. If I was looking at it, I would be looking to probably just take one car park on the east side and one on the west side, based on my observations. However, you've made recommendation to take a lot more parking, so I guess we'll see how that sort of plays out. So, does anybody else? Phil, you've got your hand up there. Is that?
Yeah, Kelly.
And then Joe.
These guys done a lot of work, but to be honest, I think it's overkill. I go along with you. I'd say one car park. If we've had no accidents there in 40 years that have been documented, we spend millions on intersections where there's 3 accidents, which in my view is probably right. But here there's been no documented accidents, and I think, especially if you look at number 163 Burwood Road, he's going to have no one. When it's not peak time, if someone's coming to visit him in the weekend, they can't park outside his house. So I think we should just do it one space on both sides of the road and see how that works, rather than doing what this is. But it's up to the others, so I won't be supporting this.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Joe?
Yeah, hi. I'm just wanting to know what the residents of 154 and 163 think. Have you got their
yes. So
what are their views?
Yeah, so 163 resident is in full support of removing both the parks. He said he's actually had nothing but trouble. We didn't hear back from the people. We didn't hear back from anyone on the east side. We heard back from one resident on the east side who mentioned that he agreed with what you guys were saying, that he supported the idea, but we didn't need to. He just wanted one park. He thought one park was better to be removed on both sides of Burwood Road. I did hear, I had a site meeting out at Clear Park with the owner of 163 to do with the hedge being removed to bring up the sight lines as well. And 161 property owner came down and he said he was in full support as well of the proposal, although he didn't email me to mention that. So no, I haven't heard back from the immediately affected residents on the east side.
Okay, I just see 154. It looks like they haven't got an access to their house on the actual Burwood Road side. It's just Clearvale.
No, yeah, it's on Clearvale. So no, I heard from the 158 property owner on the east side who mentioned about the parking. The proposal, the initial proposal was excessive. That's when we had the whole 4 parks on that east side. Up to the number 156 driveway were initially proposed, and since the initial consultation we've doled it back to just 3 parks. However, end of the day, it's your guys' call. We've worked it out on the speed of the area and what the guidelines are, and I also agree there's 1,000 intersections around Christchurch that don't have any yellow lines at all. However, they the amount of turn movements in and out of Clearvale and Clear Park warranted us to set up, to propose to the guidelines.
Yeah, no, okay. Thank you. I think if the school ordered it and initiated it, it's good.
But yeah, no objection from any of those other residents and owners.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Wayne. Does anybody else have any other questions, statements, thoughts? No? Okay. So then thank you, guys. So we will need someone to move that. Is someone happy to move?
I did that.
Linda already did that. I'll second.
Oh, did she? Oh, sorry, I missed that. You're going to second it, Bibi? Okay, so show of hands, all those in favour?
We're not going to have a debate.
Oh, we can have a debate.
I didn't have a question, but I just want to thank the staff for taking the time to do all of this work for this issue. And I just think that when it comes to safety, and particularly around a school, that we need to take the advice that we've been given. And I really appreciate the sorry, what's your name? Ashley coming and talking to us about the school as well. If the school are asking for this and the residents are happy about it, it seems like a no-brainer to me that if it's going to improve safety for our school children, that I'll be supporting this.
Okay, thank you, Bibi. Anybody else? Well, I'd have to say that I'm not going to support it. The reason being, I think that a trial period, perhaps with one park being lost on each side, might be worthwhile, despite what recommendations might be. You can always add another one down the track, but I guess that's untested. So, and we'll see how that plays out. But thank you, staff. Really appreciate your wisdom around this and thoughts.
And we all know how hard it is to remove them, Kelly.
As we do. That's true. Okay, so it's been moved and it's been seconded. So show of hands then, all those in favour. Okay, and all those opposed. So that's carried. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate your input into that. And
Kelly and Phil, would you like your vote against recorded?
Yeah, I would.
Yep. Phil? Yep. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks very much, Wayne. Thank you, Ashley.
Okay.
It's all right,
Bye.
thank you. And if
you.
Just on another note, if you do have any principals breakfasts or anything coming up, me and George would be more than happy to come and chat to the principals about school travel plans and kind of road safety outside the schools. So just reach out if you ever need a hand.
Who's George?
Wonderful. Thank you.
He's not here today. He's just the other one, the other community travel advisor who works in schools. So.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Right. Next item on the agenda is item 11, which is our community board meeting schedule for 2022. And I'd actually like to move that the current meeting schedule be retained with times. Yeah, I'd like to move that. And we have a seconder in Phil. So would anybody like to make any statements, questions?
I'd like to hear what the other board members' feedback is.
Sure. Okay, so we've got Celeste and then Bibi. Joe, was that your hand up or were you adjusting the screen?
I was just unmuting myself.
Okay. Celeste.
Yeah, I think when we've discussed this previously, one of the reasons that we talked about moving the timing was about making the meetings themselves, even though they're currently online, more accessible to a broader audience. Bearing in mind that we haven't always had the greatest amount of local sort of attendance at our meetings. So this was effectively a trial to see if that might have an impact and sending a signal to the community that we're prepared to sort of innovate a little bit in terms of the timing of things. And I think when we sort of work through some of the barriers to changing the time, one of the challenges was fitting it in with the staff schedule. I think my understanding was we came to the conclusion that we could probably run a slightly more efficient meeting, but also achieve the goal of making it quite accessible. So I'm quite in favour of trialling it. It's only 30 minutes later, but it does mean that those people that are on a sort of a 9 to 5 work schedule could potentially attend in person, or if they want to watch it in real time, then they can also join the live stream at 5 o'clock. So.
Okay, thank you. Bibi, I do believe you're next. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, just supporting what Celeste is saying there. When I first came onto the board, I made the suggestion. My experience of coming to talk to the board as a member of the community was that I had to take time off work, and I'm in a position where I can take time off work to do this important community work, but a lot of people can't. And it made it difficult for me for the board to be accessible. And if it's difficult for me, then it's inaccessible for others. And I know that. And I think it's worthwhile for us to inconvenience ourselves and our staff to make this board more accessible to our residents, to our constituents who we are here to represent. So I wholeheartedly support a 5 p.m. start if it means that more people will be able to hear us and see us.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
What was Joe's? I didn't catch it.
No, Joe was just turning up her or unmuting herself.
Talk to us, Joe.
So
I want to get a handle on how the other board members feel. So what about Phil? There we go.
Okay, so Phil's got his hand up now.
Yeah, sorry. Staff have a life too. They've got to be gone and out of the building, well, when we're in our com board room by 7 o'clock at night, which normally means knocking off at 6:30. Now, I don't want to be constrained. A lot of times our meetings go on. I don't want to be constrained and not do a meeting properly because we're running out of time and then you rush stuff through. We have the same thing in at council. Oh, we've been sitting for 8 hours, not that we do it in hours. We've been sitting for 8 hours and we rush stuff through, and sometimes more important stuff gets overlooked because we're not giving it the full attention that we should. So, and on the other hand, and I'm not certainly saying this, there's nothing wrong, hopefully no one takes offence to what I'm saying, but the first 15, 20 minutes of the meeting is just minutes, and it's not meaty stuff. If there's correspondence, and that's fair enough, we've got to read that, and the people that have gone to the trouble of writing it want us to throw effort at it as well. But the first, as I say, 20 minutes, nothing sort of really substantial happens. So I just don't want to see us cut ourselves short with time and have to rush stuff and make a poor decision, and also put pressure on our staff because they've got to have a life as well. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Phil.
Okay.
Joe.
I can see everyone's point here, and to me, starting early is good for staff. It also suits me because usually I've got other meetings on Monday evenings with some residents associations, but we do want to make it more accessible to the public, and if we can get around or find a way to actually do that, whether we make a certain time where they do come in that is not at the start of the meeting, that could be an option as well. But also we have to consider that we have changed from fortnightly meetings to monthly meetings. So we do have more to get through, or hopefully we'll have more to get through. And we probably do need the time. So swings and roundabouts.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
Good point, Joe.
Linda?
Okay, and I'm like Joe, I'm seeing everyone's point of view, and I'm hearing it loud and clear. Staff do have a life as well. For me, it doesn't make a difference because I do my consultancy work from home, and I fit everything around my board meeting where possible. But I would like to see more people participating in our board meeting, and I think that's really one advantage that we really could look at. I would suggest we have a trial period and keep it tight, maybe 2 board meetings. I don't really want to see it go much longer than that. I'd be happy to trial 2 and see how that goes. Come back, where are you? Oh, there you are. Changing places on me.
Yeah, everyone just moved around for some reason.
Oh, the other thing I was going to say is how do our staff feel about it, because they're going to be impacted as well.
John moved around because Chris put his hand up.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, just before Chris speaks, perhaps then I'll add my 50 cents worth. I'm quite happy with the status quo. I like the fact that we now are live streaming on YouTube, so that has definitely opened up access to more people. In fact, a lot of people actually view the meetings now. I feel that if they do want to participate, half an hour is not going to make a huge difference. I think the board meetings for the last term and this term, so for the last 5 and a bit years have been at this time. There's a regularity there, and I would like to see it change just in the short term. I think that if we're starting at 5, we're going to be under some pressure to finish by about 6:30, so staff can clean everything up and sort it out. So yeah, I mean, that's why I moved it essentially. So Chris, did you want to?
Yeah, so I'm not going to wade into the debate because the start time of the meeting, sorry, it's because I'm lowering my hand. That's why the boxes move around. So if anyone ever raises their hand, it moves them to the top of the queue so the chair can see who's wanting to speak. So I'm not going to wade into the debate. So the start time of the meeting, it makes no difference to us. We're here to support the board in terms of your decision making. I think, I'm not sure who mentioned it, it might have been Phil, that the only real cap comes in around the time that you need to finish by, because I think I've mentioned it to you before when we had a briefing on this. So it's kind of employment contract stuff. So it's not just governance staff, it's all of staff of council. So if you've got people coming out to report to you, there's a time that there's a cutoff time effectively. So that's just one thing that you have to factor into your decision making, is if you start the meeting later, it does shorten your meeting time. The only other comment that I really wanted to make, and we've made allowances for this before, so if ever you've got people in the community that want to come and do a public forum, or if they're wanting to come and speak to a report, so give a deputation to you guys, Cindy as the board advisor works with them. So if they can't make it, if you change the start time of your meeting, or if you leave it at 4:30, either way, if they can't make that time, we can work it into the agenda that they can come and present later. And you'll see that comes up at council as well. I think even at the last council meeting, some of the deputations were heard around lunchtime. So we just work in with whatever we can to help the community. The only other comment that I'd really make is just to touch on what you said, Kelly, around now live streaming to YouTube, just to caveat that we're only doing this at the moment while we're in the red setting. So I don't want to set an expectation that it will continue beyond that at the moment. It is just in the business continuity plan that this is just during the red setting. It might carry on beyond that, but I don't want to guarantee that. So again, I just want you to have that as part of your decision making, that if you're saying, oh, because it's live streamed, we could do X or Y, just factor in that it is while we're not meeting in person. Other than that, I can take some questions if you've got them, but otherwise it's for you guys to figure what you think is best.
Okay, so Linda has a question.
No, it's not a question. It's just a point that's been raised, and I think this is worth exploring as well. I think it might have been Joe that said, look, if we've got people that have got to get out the door and over to present to us, and 4:30 is too tight, and even 5 o'clock can be, why couldn't we have a shuffle on the agenda and allow some time later in the agenda? So even shift it, or have it flexible.
I think Christian did that.
So it would be a case of we would do it when we know people would want to come and present, because obviously if you've got a shorter agenda and we say a later time, it might mean that you're hanging around just in case someone comes to speak. But if someone was wanting to come and say today, if someone wanted to speak to the Avondale speed zones and they said, oh no, we can't make it till 5:30, we'd hold that report back till 5:30. We'd work with the community on that.
Good, yeah. Okay.
Happy, Linda?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay. Phil?
Yeah, I agree with Joe. It is only one day a month. People can't revolve their life around that. I think they've got a bit of a problem. And you've got to remember, we had a fairly light agenda today and we haven't finished yet. And we've already been going for 1.5 hours. You throw another half hour onto that by starting later, we're going to be in trouble. And because we didn't have much on our plate today. So I'm just saying.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Celeste?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd probably take a different sort of view on the fact that if we're only having one meeting a month, it's even more important that that's an opportunity for the public to engage. This is the one, we've gone from 2 meetings a month to 1 meeting a month. And my impression from the community is it's a bit of a chicken and egg. So people think they can't make it to the meeting, so they don't engage. And then we sort of put it back onto the residents saying, well, it's not their fault for coming. And kind of speaking to Phil's point about the first part of the meeting not being important, my impression is that's the most important bit, because that's when the communities come to speak to us. So I would think that if we're going to be prioritising a certain part of the meeting, it should be when the public come to speak to us. And if we need to be a bit more efficient with the rest of the meeting, that's what our job is. And as Chris has said, staff are there to support us. And if we need to get out before 7, that's just a schedule that, like every other meeting, we need to work to. So I think it'd be a shame if we didn't give it a go, because we haven't tried it before. So we can't really speak to the disadvantages of it yet. But if we were to say, look, let's try it for 6 months and it doesn't work, then at least we'll know that it, in theory, it doesn't make any impact. So I would sort of, I'd be quite keen to see that given.
Tricky. Tricky.
Okay, so where are we at? I have moved, and it's been seconded by Phil, that the current meeting schedule was retained. It's been moved and seconded, and it has been debated. I guess the motion that has been put is that we retain the current timing. So we should vote on that. So all those in favour of retaining the current meeting schedule with the time starting at 4:30, raise your hand. So that's 2. All those opposed? So that's 3. And then Joe, are you going to vote in this one?
Kind of easy.
You just voted.
You need to vote, though. Don't abstain.
It could be a matter of trialing 2 and seeing how that goes and then reassessing.
So you can create a new motion, Joe.
Yeah, we're going to even amend them.
Can I suggest, Joe, if we do more than 2, just because we are still live streaming, so it might not have. I think we sort of need a longer period of time to assess the full. So maybe to October would be a better amount of time, because Kelly made the point that it's good to have a bit of continuity. So if we start it and then we stop it, people are just getting their head around the change.
Well, so hang on, we're actually in the middle of voting on a motion. So
at
this stage, it's 2 to 3. Joe's abstained. So Chris, could you give us some guidance around this?
Yeah, sure. So from the vote that you've just taken, so that motion is lost. Right. So now, understanding orders, someone else can move something else. It doesn't have to stop there. So if someone would like to move a motion, either the recommendation in the report, or if you're wanting to move something else through the chair, just call for someone to move something.
Okay, well, I'm seeing 3 hands here at the moment. I'll start with the first one. That was Celeste. So.
Actually, I think Bibi or Linda might have beat me, so I'm going to let them go.
You're going to defer to...
defer. I think...
Bibi was actually second. Sorry, Linda, your pen was a little slow. Bibi.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we accept the staff recommendation and amend the schedule of our ordinary meetings as it's stated in our minutes, in our meeting.
Okay, so without change at all, you're just suggesting that we... Okay. Do we have a seconder for that? Celeste? Okay, so we... Can
you clarify that motion, please?
That
well, it's the original one in the agenda.
Oh, wait, one at a time.
We accept the staff recommendation.
It's unchanged as in the agenda. Isn't that right, Bibi?
Yes, as in the agenda.
As in the agenda.
And just a quick comment, Kelly, sorry, if ever it's helpful, like now or throughout the meeting, if you'd like to see the minutes up on the screen, just someone say, and then Cindy can screen share so you can see what you're voting on. So far, I think you've been taking mostly the officer recommendations, but yeah, if it's helpful, Cindy can bring it up so you can see it.
Could we please see it? Thanks. I'd like to see the staff recommendation, because we can't bring it up on our screen and see your lovely faces. There you go.
Good point, Linda. So, yeah. Can everyone see that all right?
It's very small. Very
so,
small.
So essentially what you're seeing there is for the remainder of the term, it's moving your board meetings to start at 5 o'clock. And the second part of the recommendation there is just status quo. So the board briefing starting at 3 o'clock on the alternative meeting slot.
Okay.
Thank you.
So perhaps we could pull back, so we can all see each other. Okay, so we've got the original motion before us, which has been moved by Bibi, it's seconded by Celeste, so we need to vote on that. So all those...
Before we can amend an amendment, we can move an amendment, but it has to be put to the vote first. Is that right?
There is no amendment at this stage. Does someone have an amendment?
Yes, I'd like to.
Okay.
I'd like to amend it to 3 months, not 6 months.
We have to vote on the original motion first.
That's what I meant, Kelly.
If I can chip in here again, if you'd like.
Thank you, Chris.
So you can move an amendment prior to the vote. So if someone would like to move an amendment that has been signalled, you would then vote on, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Cindy. Cindy's your expert, so I probably shouldn't be speaking. But so you can move an amendment. If there is a seconder for that amendment, it will then be voted on first. If that is lost, you return to your motion that has been moved by Bibi and Celeste. So if Linda would like to amend that.
Yes, I'd like to amend it as it stands, but make it 3 months, the next 3 months. Because my reasoning there is because I've seen how other terms work leading to the end of the term. There's a lot of work comes through in the closing months, 2 or 3 months. So I'm thinking really just be careful and go halfway rather than right through to the end of the term.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Do we have a seconder for Linda's amendment, which is to, instead of doing 6 months, 3 months at 5, starting at 5, and then reviewed? So Joe, you're going to second that? Okay, so all in favour of that amendment, say aye, or raise your hand.
Yeah, raise your hands.
Okay, so
that's, sorry. Oh, Bibi.
I think I got a bit confused with the process. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're voting on is, will we change the schedule to starting at 5 for 3 months as opposed to 6 months, which was moved and seconded and then voted on. So we have 3 in the affirmative. And
do we debate it before do we debate the amendment before it goes to a vote, or do you not at this stage?
Yep, if you have debate, sorry again, Kelly, through the chat.
Sorry.
So you've got a mover and seconder for your amendment. So now you can move into debate. It can be debated separate to the motion that's already on the table as an amendment. It will be, then the amendment is voted on. And if that is carried, that becomes your substantive. If it is lost, you return to the substantive. So at the moment you are voting, so you can debate 3 months of this trial, debate, and then Kelly, you should put it to the vote.
Okay, so yeah, I apologise there. I probably jumped in a bit too soon. So I guess we'll debate that. Would anybody like to say anything? So Celeste.
Yeah, thanks, Linda, for putting forward the amendment. I think I understand the intention behind it. It's about, testing out the idea and seeing how well it works in practice. I think the reason that I would probably prefer to have a slightly longer period of time is because I think the actual meetings themselves are an opportunity for people to come and speak to us and us to make decisions, but the work itself can, as the plan of meeting up a bit more and having conversations and working through the issues, I think a lot of that should actually be happening, in another forum as well, of us, having conversations and leading into, so it's effectively 6 meetings, which I think is actually a good amount of time to trial something. And anything that gets put forward is effectively a trial because we can change it at any time. So even if we did go with Bibi's original motion, I think it just gives us sufficient time to bed in the idea with the community before we then decide whether it works or not. Because I suspect that because there's so much going on at the moment, things like this can just take a bit of time to filter through to the community. So my preference would be to go with the original motion. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Celeste. Linda?
On the basis that this can be, the 6 months can be altered and modified back if it's not working, I would withdraw my motion.
Shall I amend my own motion to have a 3-month review?
Yeah.
Sorry, Bibi, you're adding, amending your original motion to add a 3-month review?
Amend the schedule of the ordinary meetings with a 3-month review.
Okay. So, Linda, do you withdraw your?
Yes, I'm happy.
Okay, you're happy to withdraw? Joe, I guess you get no choice there. Okay, so we're back to the substantive, aren't we, Chris, with the addition of a review at 3 months?
So just so I can check my understanding, so you have the officer recommendation, which is to the end of the term, and we'll just add a new number in there to say that the board will review this in 3 months. Can I just check how you want to do that review? Do you want to just informally check in, or do you want us to bring a report at that 3-month point so that you can confirm the schedule? Yeah, what
I'd
are
like
your...
it to be formal the way that this one is.
I think so. Yeah.
So,
an agenda item.
Yeah, so we'll schedule that in for the June meeting so that then you can review it in June, ready for either changing or continuing from July. Is that okay?
Yes, great.
Thank you.
All right. So
sorry, Kelly. So I'm just going to share my screen just so you guys can see what you're actually voting on. So bear with. And I'll make it slightly bigger again. So this is the original staff recommendation, and I've just added in a new number 2, that the board will review the meeting schedule in 3 months' time by way of formal report.
Okay.
Or do you want it defined to the June meeting?
Fine.
Okay, perfect.
Right. So we're back to the beginning again. So we now have the amended motion before us. So it was already moved. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Brain's a bit fried now. And it's already been seconded, right, with the amended period. So let's vote on that, shall we? So, is there any further debate? Phil? Really?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the only thing I can say. I won't be supporting this. Carry on, regardless.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Yeah, I'm the same. I was quite happy with the way it was before. So I won't support it either. Right, anyone else? Oh, you had your say?
So it's been like it for years, so I can't see how
it is broken.
Okay. Anyone else? Linda, Joe? Right, well, let's vote on this then. So all those in favour of the original and modified motion, put up their hand and say aye. Okay, and opposed? And that's carried.
Again, Phil and Kelly, would you like your votes recorded against?
Yes.
Cool.
All right, so what an eventful day. I almost ran out of power on my device, managed to plug it in just in time. So we are now up to item 12, I believe, which is the Community Board Area Report for March 2022. So do we have any questions, or would someone like to move it? Oh, Chris, perhaps you should.
I can move it. I can move it.
Okay, so Linda's going to move. I'll second it. So, Chris, would you like to?
Yeah, look, I'm conscious of time, so I'll take the report as read. I'll just take a moment just to compliment my team. They've done an awesome job on this report. There's really good content. I'd love to steal all the credit for it, but to be honest, it's not my work, it's the team's work. So there's some really good information in there for you and the community. Just to two things really to highlight. There's plenty in there, but Brooklands, which is one of your board plan priorities, you'll see that there's some really good work beginning in there that Emily is leading, and it's just really good to be starting to build some connections in with that community. And the only other thing that I'll really mention is you'll see that the monitoring report for the board plan is included in there as well. So there's just a bit of an update on all of the priorities. Some of them we've made some good progress with. Some of them, as we've talked about in the past, are heavily heavily reliant on either annual plan or long-term plan funding. So it makes it difficult to do a lot of work with that, but there's commentary against each of the items in there. Other than that, I think that's enough from me. So happy for questions or happy for you guys to discuss.
Okay, questions. So first we have Bibi.
I just really wanted to say thank you to the team, and I think Emily specifically for the work that's happening in Brooklands. It's really important, and it's been a long time coming, and it looks like there's a lot of activity, and I'm just really thankful that that is happening.
I'd like to echo those sentiments as well.
Yeah, I think everybody does. That's brilliant. I mean, it's really great to see something positive for the people of Brooklands, and Emily looks like she's doing great work. As the people out there seem to appreciate, being in close contact, and I think she's made a real difference. So great. Okay. Well, does anybody else have any other questions for Chris? Phil, is that your hand up again?
Is this debate? Do we do debate? No.
We're asking questions.
It's a bit loosey-goosey. It's half the trouble.
I'm absolutely embarrassed to be a councillor to be involved with what's happening down in Earlham Street. It is a disgrace. That photo you see there on the bottom left, one of the guys tried to fill up a bit of a section where they pulled some trees out, and lo and behold, they go out and get told that they're going to get abatement notice against them for filling up a section that's got 300 mils of water on it, when the guy behind them to the north has put in 5,000 cubic metres of filling into a big hole, and that's why this land floods. It is not acceptable. It is not good. So it's a good report. It's good. It's brought it to our attention, but I'm definitely not happy with this area, sorry to say.
Yep. No, fair enough. Okie dokes. So, any questions, statements, etc.? Okay, well, it's been moved that we receive the report and seconded, so we'll put that motion. All those in favour? Aye. Raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous, so there are none opposed. So that is carried. Thank you. So item 13, the last item on our agenda is the elected members information exchange. Who would like to begin? I'm conscious that people have meetings to go to shortly, so
I'll start.
Okay, Linda, you're up.
I really don't have a lot to say because there's not a lot going on. That's it. And we've got communities that are suffering. I know that sounded very flippant, but we've got communities that are living very isolated now. And I think there's going to be fallout on this when we come through. And we'll have to have our eyes on it because we will need to get events up and running and getting people connected again. That's it.
Thank you, Linda. Bibi?
Okay, a couple of things. Peak Trust doing pretty well. We've got 2 new board members, which is really fantastic. So they'll be at the next board meeting. Dellington Landing opened on Saturday. Thank you, Kelly, for emceeing that. It was a really great event. Small, but it's significant. One of the bridges is now open, so Avondale Bridge is now open, and people are enjoying that. Kelly also MC for that one.
Are you sure you're going to call that the Avondale Bridge?
Let's not discuss that.
The process has not
at Avondale. The yet unnamed bridge at Avondale. The Midway Street Bridge is due to, not in our ward, but close by, is due to open in a couple of weeks. And then the Snell Bridge in our ward will be opening in next month. So that's really exciting. A couple of things, and just echoing what Linda's saying. One is that in my other role, I'm involved in, COVID in the community. And I have a really big concern that the east of Christchurch and our wards particularly are being left out of what's happening with rat testing. We all understand what rat tests are and we know how to get them. Most of them are not anywhere near our suburbs. And we know very well that we have a lot of people who aren't active, older people or people with no cars or people with kids. And there's no easy way to get rat tests in East Christchurch. And I think it's a real problem. I know there's nothing we can do about it, but I'm really concerned about it. And then in addition to that, how to do outreach in the middle of a pandemic. It's such a problem. And Linda and I both know that there are a lot of people who are suffering and scared, and I know that the all of the stuff that is produced by that COVID-19, there's all these little pamphlets and other things you can get. One of them is actually something you can drop in people's letterbox with a phone number on it, and so I'll share that round after this. But that is something that we might want to put out to our community groups, that they want to start distributing that, because it's an official thing that you can write your phone number, you can write a bit of information and say what you can help with, maybe a delivery, maybe a phone call for people who are lonely. It's something that we can send out through our networks as something small that we can help with. That's all I've got. Tried to talk fast.
Thanks, Phoebe. Chris, did you have a question?
Just a real quick comment. Normally I wouldn't interrupt your information exchange, but Phoebe, if you'd like us to share that with our database of community networks, as well as you guys, copy me into or send it to the board email address and we'll pick it up and share it as well.
Thanks, Chris. Anyone else? Joe? Celeste? Okay. Got there first? Joe, we'll go back to you.
Yeah, okay. There, like Linda, there isn't a lot to report because there hasn't been much happening. There have been a couple of residents association meetings, and BB and I had a TTK meeting since last, and we have another one tomorrow. And on that front, there's actually not a lot happening either. And I went to the last museum meeting just before the last, or just after the last meeting, and I've got another museum one tomorrow, which I have to apologise for because TTK is at the same time. So that's about that. And I should have probably brought up in matters arising from the minutes and asked what is happening about the Spencerville traffic management thing that Craig talked about. Is there any update, staff?
So that's currently sitting with staff for investigation. So as soon as they've come up with a response, that will be shared with the board, the Spencerville Residents Association, and included in an area report. I have spoken to staff and they're actively looking at that. They're hoping that they could do some works within their current budgets. Other than that, it might require a council decision if they have to move the speed sign further back up the road. So they're just looking at their options before they report back formally to the board. So it hasn't been forgotten. It was only the last meeting, so staff will get back to us as soon as they've done their investigations.
Thanks.
Okay, any idea like about another month or two?
I can't predict staff's availability and how their resources are distributed for certain projects or requests. So it's just a waiting game, unfortunately. They have up to 3 months to respond back to that query. So hopefully they will respond back soon, but I am aware that they're actively working on it. So hopefully we will get something back soon.
Yeah. Maybe we can take these questions offline because this is for information exchange. Yeah, okay. So Joe, you've got any more? No, you're good. So
I'll take it offline.
Did you want to go, Celeste?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button before. A few things. There's been a number of community meetings, and some groups have been moving online, which is really great, just as a way to keep going, because I know that there is a lot of pressure on community groups at the moment. You know, it's hard when you can't sort of go out and hold events to recruit new members. So yeah, it has been quite challenging. One of the groups that's actually recently launched, and Phil was there, was on Saturday. I went along to the Estuary Edge cleanup and we were both invited down by the Rotary Club. New Rotary clubs opened up in sort of South Brighton area, Otatahi Passport, and they're looking to sort of connect with other groups. So if you have any suggestions, that would be quite helpful. And they're project based, so they're really keen to just get out and do projects. And they had a donut stand there, which was awesome. So it's part of their fundraiser. And the other quick thing, which I thought was quite cool, was at the beginning of the month, the Barkery opened for those with dogs. Linda, I don't know if you've been down there.
No, where is it?
Oh, that was a cafe that was there for my swearing in Burwood. It's they opened up, and their location is 395 New Brighton Road, and they are sort of working with different charities in terms of doing the dog friendly cafe in the area, and then they're partnering with other organisations, I think, to support the work that they're doing.
Oh,
so it's
like
really,
really cool. And have a yap.
Yeah, you should head along. It's awesome. And then, there's some other resident group meetings that are coming up across the ward, which will be really good.
Okay. Thank you, Celeste. Philip, I do believe you're next.
Joey, how's the old museum raising money department coming along?
Yeah, they're all good. They've actually hired Thea Mickle, who is a professional fundraiser, to actually help them do some grant applications. But they raised up to a third of what they required to actually apply for grants. So any additional help is most welcome.
And, I think
it's really, really worthwhile cause.
About 80 short. Is that what they are at the moment? Is that what I'm hearing?
Around about 80.
Yeah, okay. All right. Now that's me, Kelly, because you've got to remember that the last 20 minutes of this meeting haven't existed, because if we start at a later date, this we're already gone.
Okay. Thank you, Phil. Yeah, just on the New Brighton Museum, I was having a chat at the opening of the bridge, the footbridge over the river between Avondale and Burwood, that hasn't been named yet. And I did have a chat to Neil Cooper, who is involved with SEAT, and he said that they'd received nothing from the New Brighton Museum. And I do remember at one of the early meetings for Canterbury Earthquake Appeal Trust that they had discussed doing just one or two projects. However, that may have changed, and Neil had encouraged me to reach out to Tim Baker to let him know that that might be a good idea to put something through. I guess they can only turn it down. And so I did mention that to Tim, and so hopefully they will take the opportunity to actually seek some funds, because I mean there's a couple of $1 million there, and it would be really good to see them get what they need.
It would be ideal. I have talked to them about that, Kelly, quite often, and the problem is that the SEAT funding, they're looking at one project to umbrella, and plus the museum ideally would need the money sooner than the SEAT fund would be available.
Yeah, maybe so, but there certainly is no harm in actually pushing it forward and actually doing something. In my opinion. All right, Celeste, did you want to come back with something else?
Oh, sorry, I just forgot to mention the bridge, South Brighton Hub. I know Phil got a tour through the building from Samantha Fay. They're just doing a really great job. It looks incredible in there. They've done a lot to fit the place out, and now they're activating the space. So it's quite an achievement, and worth going down to have a look if you haven't been inside yet.
Yeah, it's amazing from where they've come from when we first got invited down there at the start of the term, to where it is today. It's pretty cool. Okay, so I've just got a couple of quick things. As Bibi mentioned, I was MC at the opening of the footbridge and the Darlington Landing, which were just great occasions. One of the cool things was we didn't have anybody to actually open the Darlington Landing. There was no ribbon to cut or anything like that. So I came up with the idea of everybody opening it together, which was it was actually quite a cool thing. So we all said the same word. Yeah, for the people of Christchurch, we declare this Dallington Landing open, sort of thing. So everybody who actually turned up can say that they opened the Dallington Landing. It was pretty cool. And last but not least, the Martians Hall Trust, in an attempt to raise the profile of the Hall Trust, who are wanting to build a facility in the Prestons area, Waitakere area, Prestons Park, held their first trailer day, which was based on the model of the Dallington Residents Association skip day. So it was an absolutely fantastic, incredibly satisfying experience to have a trailer there, to have people come from all over Prestons, bringing just a few items of rubbish they wanted to get rid of, to have us fully fund taking that to the dump. And I'd like to thank Councillor Major for his trailer, which was the second trailer. We needed two, and that's what we managed to fill up. It was really successful. People are really buzzing over it. So yeah, now they know a little bit about a little bit more about the trust and what we're trying to do.
We'll do it again.
So what was that?
We'll do it again.
Yes, should. All right.
Can I ask Kelly, how are they going with their building fund?
So at the moment they're trying to purchase land. So negotiations ongoing with CDL. So yeah, we're waiting for some movement on that, because until we've got land, we've got nothing. We have a design, we have an architectural design, but yeah, until we have the land, we don't have anything.
Bit concerned that the money will be depreciating in the bank.
Yes, it would have been nice to get that property back before prices changed, but
prices have changed.
Yes,
building costs have gone through the roof. So the money in the bank's getting smaller. I'd be very concerned.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. So there's nothing left for us to do but have the final karakia and then close the meeting. So I don't think we'll stand for this because it adjusts us. Okay, so Unahia, ki te uru tapanui, kia watia, kia mama, kia nako, te tinana, te wairua, e te ara takaka, kōrera, e rongo, whakiria, ake ki ranga, kia tina, huie, takie. Thank you very much, everybody. I declare the meeting closed. Thank you